A widow convinced she'd never love again discovers that broken hearts can heal when the right person chooses you completely. Subscribe to Wild Sky Stories' new emotional tales every day. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the dusty main street of Sweetwater Springs as Margaret Hayes swept the wooden porch of the general store for the third time that day. Her hands, worn from years of hard work, gripped the broom handle with practiced efficiency. At 32, she had accepted her lot in life running the store her late husband had left her 5 years ago, along with a mountain of debt and a heart too broken to mend. The bell above the door chimed, and old Mrs. Patterson emerged with her weekly supplies. "Thank you, dear. Same time next week? I'll have your order ready," Margaret replied with a gentle smile that never quite reached her eyes. As the elderly woman shuffled down the street, Margaret allowed herself a moment to rest against the porch railing, watching the town move through its daily rhythm. Families walked together, couples strolled arm in arm, and children chased each other between the buildings. She had long stopped imagining herself as part of such scenes. "Excuse me, ma'am. Would this be the place to buy supplies for a ranch?" The voice was deep and unfamiliar. Margaret turned to find a tall man standing at the base of the porch steps, hat in hand. He had kind eyes the color of summer grass and sand-colored hair that touched his collar. Dust covered his clothes, suggesting he had traveled a fair distance. "Yes, sir. I carry most everything a rancher might need." "What brings you to Sweetwater Springs?" "Just purchased the old Thornton place about 5 miles west." "Name's Daniel Ross." He climbed the steps and extended his hand. Margaret hesitated briefly before accepting the handshake. His grip was firm but gentle. "Margaret Hayes." "Welcome to town, Mr. Ross. The Thornton Ranch has been empty for near about 2 years now. That's what the lawyer told me. Needs considerable work, but I'm not afraid of that." His smile was genuine, crinkling the corners of his eyes. "I'll need quite a bit of supplies to get started. Fence posts, nails, some tools, and whatever you'd recommend for basic provisions." For the next hour, Margaret helped him compile a substantial order. Unlike most customers who rushed through their purchases, Daniel asked her opinion on everything, listening carefully to her suggestions about which brands lasted longest and which suppliers provided the best value. He treated her advice with respect, as if her thoughts truly mattered. "You know your business well, Mrs. Hayes," he said as she tallied his order. "It's Miss Hayes now," she corrected quietly, immediately regretting the personal disclosure. "And yes, I've been running this store for 5 years. My apologies for the assumption." His tone held no pity, only courtesy. "When could I pick up the larger items? I've only got my horse today. I can have everything ready by Friday. If you need, I can arrange delivery for a small fee." "That would be most helpful. I'll be in town Friday regardless. Perhaps I could buy you lunch at the hotel dining room as thanks for your assistance?" Margaret's hand froze over her ledger. Her cheeks flushed warm. "That's not necessary, Mr. Ross. I'm simply doing my job." "I'm sure you are, but I'm new in town and could use friendly conversation along with the meal. No strings attached, just 2 people sharing food and talk." She studied his face for a hint of mockery or ulterior motive, but found only honest invitation. Still, her walls had been carefully constructed over years of loneliness and loss. "I typically eat at my desk, but thank you for the offer." Daniel nodded, placing his hat back on his head. "Fair enough. I'll see you Friday then, Miss Hayes." After he left, Margaret stood in the empty store, her heart beating strangely fast. She pressed a hand to her chest, willing the feeling away. Hope was dangerous. Hope led to disappointment, and she had experienced enough of that to last a lifetime. Friday arrived with unexpected speed. Margaret had convinced herself that Daniel Ross would send a ranch hand to collect his supplies, saving them both from awkward conversation. But at noon precisely, he walked through the door, freshly shaved and wearing clean clothes.
"Good afternoon, Miss Hayes. My order ready?"
All packed and waiting out back. I'll show you." As they walked through the store, Daniel paused by a display of flower seeds. "Do you garden?" "Small one behind the store. Mostly vegetables, but I keep a few flowers. They brighten things up. My mother always said flowers were food for the soul." He picked up 3 packets. "I'll take these too. Time to start making that ranch a home." While loading his wagon, Daniel worked alongside the delivery boy, refusing to simply supervise. Margaret watched from the doorway, noting how he treated the young man with the same respect he had shown her, asking his name and about his family. "All set," Daniel announced, dusting off his hands. "Now about that lunch." "Invitation. I'm even hungrier than I was 3 days ago, and I still could use the company. Would you reconsider?" Margaret opened her mouth to refuse, but different words emerged. "I suppose I could close for an hour." His face lit up with such genuine pleasure that something tight in her chest loosened slightly. The hotel dining room was modest but clean. Margaret could feel eyes watching as Daniel held her chair, could hear the whispers starting. By evening, the whole town would be talking. Part of her wanted to flee. The other part, buried so deep she had forgotten it existed, wanted to stay. "Tell me about Sweetwater Springs," Daniel said after they had ordered. "What should I know about my new home?" It was a safe topic, and Margaret relaxed into it, describing the town's founding, its people, and its quirks. Daniel listened with complete attention, asking questions that showed he was truly interested. He had a way of looking at her that made her feel seen, not just observed. "And what about you?" he asked gently. "Have you always lived here?" "Came here when I married at 19. My husband Robert ran the general store." She paused, old pain surfacing. "He passed 5 years ago. Accident with a horse. I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you." She waited for the usual follow-up questions, the prying into her grief, but Daniel simply nodded and gave her space to continue or change the subject as she wished. "What brought you to Sweetwater Springs?" she asked, looking for a fresh start. "I was engaged back in Kansas, but she chose someone else. Someone with more money, better prospects." He said it matter-of-factly, without bitterness. "Made me realize I was living the life others expected, rather than the one I wanted. Always dreamed of having my own ranch, so I sold everything and here I am. That took courage, or foolishness. Time will tell which." He smiled. "But I believe some things are worth the risk." Over the following weeks, Daniel became a regular presence at the general store. He always had legitimate business, needing supplies for the endless repairs his ranch required. But he also lingered to talk, to ask Margaret's advice, to share stories about his progress. "Got the barn roof finished," he announced one afternoon. "Only fell through once." "Are you hurt?" Margaret's hands flew to her mouth, eyes wide with concern. "Just my pride." Landed in old hay, soft as a feather bed, his grin was infectious. "But I appreciated you asking." Other townspeople began mentioning Daniel in conversation with Margaret. "That Ross fellow seems like a hard worker," the blacksmith noted. "Decent man, too. Paid in full, no haggling." "He asked after you at church," Mrs. Patterson mentioned with a knowing look. "Seemed disappointed you weren't there." Margaret had been attending the early service to avoid such encounters, protecting herself from feelings that grew stronger despite her best efforts. Daniel was kind, hardworking, and genuine. He made her laugh. He remembered small details she mentioned in passing. He looked at her like she mattered, and it terrified her. One evening, as Margaret was closing the store, she found Daniel sitting on the porch steps. "Mr. Ross, did you need something? Just your company for a moment if you're willing." He stood, nervous energy radiating from him. "Margaret, I'm going to be direct because I'm not good at dancing around things. I care about you. These past 2 months, getting to know you has been the best part of starting over. I'd like permission to court you properly, if you'd allow it." Margaret's breath caught. The wall she had built screamed at her to refuse, to protect herself, to not risk the pain. "I can't," she whispered. can't or won't? Both. Neither. I don't know. She twisted her hands together. You seem like a wonderful man, Daniel, truly. But I can't go through that again. Building a life with someone only to have it ripped away. The grief nearly destroyed me. I understand being afraid. Do you? The words came out sharper than intended. Your fiancé chose someone else. That's different than having someone die, than being left alone with nothing but memories and debts, and a future that stretches out empty and endless. Daniel absorbed her outburst without flinching. You're right, I don't know exactly what you've been through, but I know what it's like to feel unchosen, to believe you're not enough. My former fiancé made it clear I was second best, a safe option until someone better came along. Then why would you want to risk that again? Why choose someone like me, someone broken and afraid? Because you're not broken, Margaret. You're wounded, which is different. And I'm not choosing you because you're safe or convenient. I'm choosing you because when I'm with you, everything feels right. Because your strength amazes me. Because your kindness to everyone who walks through that door shows who you really are. Tears spilled down Margaret's cheeks. What if something happens to you? What if I let myself care and lose you too? Daniel stepped closer, his voice gentle but firm. What if nothing bad happens? What if we build something beautiful? What if you spend so much time protecting yourself from possible pain that you miss out on certain joy? I don't know how to do this anymore. How to trust, how to hope. Then we'll figure it out together, one day at a time. No promises except that I'll be honest with you. I'll respect you, and I'll show up every single day and choose you again. He paused. But I need you to choose too, Margaret. Choose to try. Choose to believe you deserve happiness. Choose yourself. The words broke something open inside her. For 5 years, she had merely existed, going through motions, convinced her chance at love had died with Robert. She had accepted that narrative so completely that she never questioned whether it was true. I'm scared, she admitted. So am I. But I'd rather be scared together than safe and alone. Margaret looked at this man who had walked into her store and somehow seen past every barrier she had erected. He wasn't offering perfection or guarantees. He was offering genuine partnership, respect, and the courage to try again. One day at a time? She asked tremulously. One day at a time, he confirmed, his face breaking into a hopeful smile. Then yes. Yes. You may court me. Daniel whooped with joy, then caught himself laughing. Sorry, that was undignified. For the first time in 5 years, Margaret laughed freely, the sound bubbling up from somewhere deep and long dormant. It was perfect. The courtship that followed was gentle and patient. Daniel brought her wildflowers from his ranch. They took Sunday walks after church. He helped her reorganize the storeroom, and she taught him her mother's recipe for apple pie. The town watched with approval, happy to see their hard-working shopkeeper smile again. 3 months into their courtship, as they sat on Margaret's porch watching the sunset, Daniel took her hand. I need to tell you something. Her heart jumped, old fears stirring. I love you, Margaret Hayes, completely, genuinely, without reservation. I'm not telling you this expecting anything in return. I just needed you to know. Margaret looked at their joined hands, then at his face, open and honest and patient. I love you too, she whispered, amazed to find it true. I didn't think I could feel this way again. Didn't think anyone would choose me again, not with all my scars and fears. Your past is part of who you are, and I choose all of you. Every part, every scar, every fear. You don't have to be perfect or fearless. You just have to be you, even when I'm difficult, especially then. He grinned. Keeps life interesting. She leaned her head on his shoulder, feeling truly safe for the first time in years. The future was still uncertain. Life held no guarantees, but she had learned something precious. The heart, even when broken, could heal. Love, when given freely and honestly, could bloom again. Thank you, she murmured. For what? for seeing me, for choosing me, for being patient while I learned to choose myself again. Daniel pressed a kiss to the top of her head. Thank you for taking the risk. Thank you for letting me love you. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose, Margaret realized she was no longer afraid of tomorrow. She had found something she thought lost forever: hope, love, and the beautiful courage to begin again.